Guys, welcome back to another prescription. So today we've got Chikara, one of our new Patreon members.
Yep, just recently joined.
Delighted to have you on board, part of the community. So Chikara's having a few issues with the kind of top end of the bag, spacing it out. It's not really making sense for him right now. And kind of everything's getting a bit bunched up.
Yeah, he doesn't have clubs that are functional between the 3-iron and the driver.
That's right.
And is that something you find pretty common in fits? People come in and just don't have a good configuration there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it happens quite a lot in actual fact, especially the hybrid to fairway wood one, because, you know, if, like in this case, Chikara has a 16.25 degree hybrid.
Right. Very strong.
It's kind of almost like a 4-wood loft.
True.
With a shorter shaft, sometimes contact can be so good, you know, they can get so much out of it, it kind of almost performs the same as the 3-wood. Now, 3-wood being another 2.5 inches longer, potentially a little more variance, low point can be a bit of a struggle, and you don't make quite the contact you should. You know, the loss of one and the gain from another purely off the strike alone kind of puts them together. Makes them meet too much in the middle.
So just to give everyone a rough kind of outline, the 3-iron is going about 190 in the air. Fairly balanced launch and spin, you'd say, 18 degrees of launch and 3,500 spin. It's not bad
on the lower side, certainly on the lower side from spin, but his launch is up plenty. You know, again, that's already building a picture of how Chikara delivers it based on that. So, you know, 3-iron that's launching at 18 degrees at that speed, we have a little excess dynamic loft going on at impact. Little, you know, potentially a little scoopy, maybe a little from the outside, and we've seen a little bit of that in the video.
Yeah, so something in actively taking lessons, which is great, working on his delivery. So the 2 hybrid, we do get a bit of a gap, but even that gap is probably not as substantial as you'd want. It's about 197 in the air. And we saw some ones that can go 230s, 225.
Yeah, that's it.
It has that ability. Launch and spin are okay, as you said, 15 and 3,300, not bad.
Not bad. Not bad at all. That's probably the best.
That's quite good, eh? So once we get to the 3-wood, this is where the yardage is almost the same. So only about 5 yards more, about 203 in the air, 220 total. Again, capable of hitting at 230 at times, but also capable of getting ones that are shorter, around 215. Looking like that might be a little bit high in total flight with the 3-wood? Yeah,
it certainly is. I mean, if a 3-wood's coming in at 42 degree land angle, you know, we know it's coming in a little bit
42 degrees
too steep, so
a
little too high. So launch angle at 16.2 for a fairway wood is high. We should probably see that closer to 13.
Assuming it's a 15 degree, which in this case we're dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, 15 degrees launching at 16 degrees is telling you everything you need to know. So it's launching, you know, a little bit too high, or the delivered loft is too high. So, you know, while Chikara's in the stage where he's making some changes to his swing, you know, we would still like to see that dynamic loft come down through the club, or at least space the clubs out a little bit. So the first thing I see is I'd like him to play a slightly lower lofted fairway wood, Matty.
Okay.
Like to see him try the Titleist TS2 13.5.
Okay.
Where you can kind of play with that loft and lie a little bit. I think that would be really beneficial. That would certainly flatten out the flight a little bit. It's a pretty quick head from a ball speed perspective.
It's very nice.
Being able to,
I've got the TS3, but I tried both. Yeah, I like them quite a lot. Yeah, really.
So
good.
I think that would be a really nice head selection.
That's a good point. So that would basically give him a degree and a half less loft at impact, all things being equal with the swing.
Exactly. And the ability, you know, just to dial it in, obviously, and get get launched down, like we talked about, maybe about 13 or so, spin, maybe just sub 3,000, just in order to flatten out that flight a little bit.
And would he likely be looking at one of the more upright, slightly closed settings?
Yeah, slightly more upright, just tilt the face a little bit more left.
So then it makes sense with the low loft, because then you have the opportunity, if you need to put some back on through face angle.
Yeah, I mean, probably, you know, starting around, you know, sort of A2 would be nice, position-wise on the SureFit sleeve. So you know, a little more upright, but standard loft at the 13.5 would be a good place to start.
Perfect. So that should get his average 3-wood kind of where it's at 230 to 235 more often.
Yeah.
And then now we actually have a gap to place a hybrid.
Right.
So what do you see there that we could do to improve on, I guess, the total distance?
On the hybrid?
On the hybrid, yeah. So I guess it's probably a little too strong to leave it at 16, or is that?
Right now, again, you know, so if it's 16.25, it started at 17.
Right.
Right. So you've got the degree and a half. You can kind of play with the loft a little bit. So you know, as the swing evolves, and I'm sure one of the things Chikara's looking at that swing, the kind of lift and slight kind of out to in movement,
yes,
and a little bit of the loss of angle on the way down, so it creates the excess dynamic loft. As that kind of works its way out of the swing starts tracking a bit more from behind. With, I would say again, you know, always talking about wrist angles in order to control loft, being able to kind of get the wrist in a slightly stronger position, Matty, will really make a difference to that flight. It will bring it down and take away the need to have to turn everything down in loft.
Right.
But I don't see, you know, we know how long swing changes take.
Of course, yeah.
So I think, you know, the 13.5 would be a nice option right now to make an immediate improvement.
For sure. And I guess once you move the 3-wood to a point where it's more functional and going further, the hybrid's actually in a perfectly good spot. It was more in
a really good spot.
Yeah, relation to the 3-wood was the problem.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Good.
Shaft-wise, at that speed, I mean, I think, you know, something in the, you know, sort of 65 gram regular, fairly stable without being overly soft, Matty.
Okay.
One of the things that we always talk about, obviously, when we get a little bit too much out to in, the weight obviously plays a factor. We want to keep that behind you for a little bit longer.
So don't go light.
Don't go too light. Don't be trying to sort of use weight to increase your swing speed.
Gotcha.
Use that weight to create better timing.
Makes perfect sense, because if it's light, you can tend to snatch it over.
Tend to throw it a little bit. You want to use the weight of the club in order to kind of know where your club is as you come down.
So a fairly stable profile shaft, not something that's overly soft in the tip, because he obviously doesn't need the launch.
Yep.
What about the hybrid? Would you go something in the 70 gram range, would you say would be appropriate?
I think if you're progressing nicely in sort of 10 gram increments, you're on the right track.
In that
sure.
region.
Yep. And most people, if they're in a 65 gram driver shaft, will go 75 fairway, 85 hybrid.
Cool. Yeah, I think this is a fairly, as you say, it's a pretty common situation that a recreational player will find themselves in. That part of the bag can be a little confusing. Tend to see the clubs going the same distance. Everyone plays with someone that says that, my 3-wood doesn't really go further than, you know, my hybrid, or my driver's not going much further than my 3-wood. And you've just kind of identified within the launch conditions what's causing that.
Yeah.
He's just hitting his 3-wood too high.
Just a little too much dynamic loft. That's the biggest culprit by the looks of it.
Awesome.
You know, not overly steep by any means. Looking at where the spin is relative to the launch, so it's not like it's kind of high with high. It's definitely kind of higher launch with lower spin. So just a little excessive dynamic loft, losing the angles a little bit in the downswing, which we certainly hope that's what's going to be worked. The kinks are being worked out.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, Chikara, that was helpful for you. I think that was an interesting little session.
Yeah, I mean, you know, shaft-wise, as I say, probably something that would be quite nice, you know, just to think of from a profile standpoint. Something kind of in the middle of the road, sort of Aldila NV 2K Blue 60R would be quite nice.
Yep.
Where else are we at? We could certainly go. You know, a CK, even CK Blue. Would be quite nice, Chikara, if you went something along those lines.
So this is the NV.
Yep, that's NV2K.
Yep. Good for the 3-wood.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of profile that evolved out of the VS Proto sort of profile. That, you know, the green, the blue, and the orange. That's the kind of middle of the road profile. Great shaft. We do very well with fairwoods. Yeah, very stable. You know, people really like the feel of it as well. It doesn't feel like too much shaft.
Cool.
So I think that would be a pretty good partner, pretty good dance partner for the TS2 13.5.
Yeah, that's a great 3-wood. It really is.
It is. It's really, really good. I think Titleist make a phenomenal fairwood and hybrid. And I'm actually seeing, the deeper we get into it, I'm actually seeing a lot of good results with that driver as well.
Really?
Really good results.
More so the TS2 than the 3, or you kind of get a balance?
A bit of both. A bit of both. Last week we had a couple of really nice results with the TS3. With players, you know, keeping up with all the new stuff, Epic Flash and all the new stuff for ball speed.
I think people will be happy to hear that,
quicker.
to be honest.
Yeah, certainly Titleist. Well, it was a big week for them, wasn't it, in Sony?
Yeah, that's true. They had the driver count.
They won every count.
Really?
Every single one.
Irons,
driver,
wedges, ball, everything.
Fairway. The big win for them was because they can often win ball, wedge, iron. They're in the mix, but it's not often they win the hybrid
big.
Fairway driver.
It's good.
So it's
Shows
good
that they're
them.
performing, obviously.
It does. It really does. Excellent.
Okay.
Guys, we enjoy doing the prescriptions. We've got a few more.
We've got a bunch, which is great.
Which is awesome.
So you'll see probably one a week for the next little while.
We will dig into that. We'll maybe sneak into when they're easy to do from a remote setting.
Right.
We don't need to dig into the the demo matrix to do it. So we may find ourselves in an airport doing a prescription. You just never know.
In sunny Orlando.
Who knows? Excellent.
All right.
Good. Guys, hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you again soon.